Okay, I am ready.
Okay.
Are you ready?
So silly. Okay, yes, I am.
Welcome to episode 2, everybody.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you for coming back to join us. We are, we've been very much anticipating this episode,
Very excited about this.
as well as the next one.
Nervous
Um,
and excited.
Nervous and excited, way more excited than nervous, just because I feel like
This is going to be really make or break.
and people are going to be hearing things that maybe they don't know.
Yeah, definitely. The whole point of us doing this, we feel like we have to be completely transparent. We have to be honest and talk about us first. And so this episode and probably the next episode are going to be our story. So we're going to let you in and let you in more than we really let anybody in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that before we start diving into the story of us, we need to talk about our current favorite trash reality show,
Oh man,
dun 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 dun,
it's good.
Love is Blind,
It's
season
not.
4. Okay, let's just be
Spoiler
honest.
alert, love is not blind.
Let's be real, guys. You fall in love with somebody's character and person and what makes them up and what makes them tick and their values and their visions for life. But you have to have a certain level of physical attraction to a person for it to go even to that step.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to, they're kidding themselves, but it's great. We're getting a lot of entertainment out of it.
Yeah. And um let's just be honest, we recorded like the whole first part of this episode
We
and
had
we're
10
doing
minutes.
so good. And then life happened and a kid calls from school, even with it on airplane mode. And I'm thinking, oh, great, we've got a sick kid, not going to be able to record today. And then he's just like, are you checking me out today? And I was like, bro,
Oh,
if you only knew what you just ruined.
John, it took us so long to get set up. He said, "This must be an emergency. Everything's on airplane mode. How could the school call us on airplane mode?
I
They
know.
must be really, really hurt."
Well, or sick or something.
Uh,
Like, is
are
there
you going
some
to
sort
check me
of,
out today?
yeah,
No.
are we going to speech today? I'm like,
No, we only talked about this 10 times yesterday and the day before. It's okay.
and then I'm like, no, I canceled it. Well, why? Well, what time is it? Aren't you supposed to be doing your score?
Oh man, no, but Love is Blind. You should check it out. I'm a new fan. I've only seen the latest season and so much loved it so much we started watching the Japanese version, but I'm gonna go back and watch the other American versions because the difference is amazing, but it's so much cringe. It's just so much fun to watch.
It is, and I wanted to quickly touch on what we had discussed that we found really interesting with Japanese women and American women, the way they portray themselves on this show, knowing that they're going to be seen by millions, billions of people. The Japanese women have approached this thing from the first day with a huge sense of class, elegance, um, modesty, not like in a grandma or little house on the prairie
Mm-mm.
way or like Amish people, but definitely like, like I think highly of myself enough that like I want the world to see me for who I am as a person and not what size bra I
Right,
wear.
absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Whereas the American women are just like crash skanks from episode
Well,
1.
even the questions that the American women asked the American men were they they seemed to be deep at face value, but like when you compare the two, there was just no comparison. They weren't looking for. I think what one couple has made it through all the seasons. They're still together, but like in the Japanese version, they were talking about what type of marriage do you want to have? How are you? How do you fight? How do you resolve that kind of stuff?
Right.
Do you like to take family trips? Is work important to you? How do you balance work and this and that? And I've only seen one season of the American version, but I didn't hear a lot of that going on.
No.
After they initially find a connection, it immediately goes to, oh, I can't wait to get out of here and see you. Oh, I can't wait to get here and see you in person. Oh, I wish I could be over there with you.
Right.
And like it's so different. And I think we're like led to believe that that's the way it's supposed to be.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on none of the Japanese dates so far have they even discussed something like sexually explicit.
No, 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 no,
And on
no.
the American version, like from the first episodes, they're joking about being strippers
Yes,
and, you know, like
yes,
different things like that, that just, it's like, I mean, you're not going to find your
yeah.
person asking those kind of
They would
questions.
even you can't see the person. They would say, "Oh, your voice is sultry. Oh, your voice is so sexy." On the Japanese version, they said, "Oh, you have a nice voice. It sounds good. You sound nice." It's
Right.
totally different. Maybe there's something lost in translation, and I'm not getting it, and they were being dirtier than I think. But I mean, I don't know. They just seemed very giggly and like wanting, and they were also much older. They were 37, 38, 30, 52. I think the
Yeah.
oldest person in the American version was 36,
Yeah.
and they probably don't have their selves figured out yet, and they're
Hmm.
trying to blindly find someone to marry, and they're just trying to be on TV. Some of them, I'm sure, are just trying to get clout and Insta followers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And, I want to give sort of our thoughts on where we're at. So we watched episodes 1 through 5. Brett and Tiffany are like so cute.
Yeah, we ship them 100%.
They are my favorite. And I also kind of like Marshall and Jackie. I think it's Jacquelina is her full name,
Yeah.
but Marshall and Jackie are doing pretty well, I think. They seem to mesh well. And if you don't know sort of the premise of Love is Blind, you may have to kind of do a little research here on your own.
Hmm.
But it's pretty much you meet someone behind a screen or behind a wall, and you don't get to see them until after you've agreed to marry
You're in the
them.
pod life.
Yeah. Pod life.
They have separated men and women. So like in between the dates, they're all talking about each other to each other. And so they're like, oh, I like that girl too. Oh, I like him too. And they're fighting over each other in much different ways. Like it gets kind of catty and kind of mean girly on the other side for a couple of them. I don't know.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Mm.
This really triggered me with the mean girl energy. I may have said it on the last episode, but there's nothing worse than like somebody who's just terrible to other women, like just vicious and cruel and intentional with their negative thoughts and emotions about a woman.
Preach.
I cannot
I would say
hang.
people in general, but
And if
yeah,
that is you, then you need to check yourself and you need to
I think
do
it's
this.
insecurity. It comes from an insecure place. I think.
It's
I'm
terrible.
sure actually.
I hate it. I hate it so much. But Irina and Micah on this season are absolutely awful. And from what I've heard, the other podcasters say that have sort of been touching on this, that have sources that know the producers that
Hmm.
were there while filming. Like that's how they are, genuinely. They were that way
That
from the
sucks.
time they got there till whenever. I don't think Micah and Paul will get far,
And
but
it seems like the two men that they picked noticed that immediately, and they picked up on that, which is why they didn't seem to care that once they were in person, they weren't really feeling each other. Which is the best part of the show. They get to see each other for the first time, and you can tell they're not into it because love is not completely blind. You have to have some sort of, even if you've known somebody for 10, 15, 20 years before you do get together, there's something over that time that you've found that makes you attracted to them. You can't you can't just look at them.
oh,
They're,
Irina.
it's,
Irina came out. First of all, thank you, Natalie, for pointing out from last season on her podcast. She pointed out there was no music, absolutely
oh
none,
yeah,
with
everything
Irina
is
and Zach.
on.
You can hear the production ruffling around in the background, and Irina comes up, straight up gives this man a hug, and then he's like, "Can I have a little kiss?" And she's like, "Just a hug for now. Also, you look like a cartoon character. Also, you never blink."
Oh, that was awful.
I wanted to die for him.
I felt so bad for him, dude. I would have ran right then. I'd have been like, "It's over. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go hide in the closet for a while. I feel
Because
terrible."
let's be honest, she's not a 10. And
No.
I think that he thought that himself walking
Hmm.
out there, like, okay, she's a little cute, but she's not like a 10.
And isn't he like a lawyer?
Yeah, a defense attorney, which that doesn't matter to me.
He's
But
intelligent. He's smart. He's
yeah,
successful.
I think she fooled him big time. But I'm really rooting for Brett and Tiffany, and I can't wait Friday because not only will episode 1 launch, but um the Love is Blind next 3 episodes will come out.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. I was thinking episode one of what? Episode one of this podcast ships
Right,
on
so
Friday, but they don't know
yes.
that because this will come out the next Friday.
I
I was
know.
thinking, which one?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So thank you guys for that. We just had to go on our little Love is Blind rant. And if you're watching, like, hit us up, DM us. What do you think? What are your predictions? Like, what are some things that you are seeing that you feel are applicable for us to bring up? I think with this podcast being largely based around sort of our relationship thoughts and vibes and lessons and mental health, I think there's a lot to be said. And I will say that the girls on Love is Blind that were terrible, apparently they're getting awful hate comments on social media and stuff, and
Which we do not agree with.
we're not okay with that. Do not
Yeah.
harass someone. You can have your own personal opinions, but when you take them to someone's personal social media platforms, especially
Mm.
someone that's in the spotlight,
Yeah, leave them alone.
that's terrible.
Yeah,
It's
have
it's
your opinions,
awful.
but keep them to yourself if they're that hateful.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have to tear anybody down.
So, I
You ready?
guess it's time to begin the story of us.
Okay.
Um,
It's not all bad. We keep acting like it's going to be this awful thing. No, we love each other so much. This is a great story. There are just some bumps in the road that embarrass us, and that
yeah,
we have learned a lot from. Not when we should have learned them, but accumulatively, we have learned some great lessons and learned to love each other through whatever gets thrown at us. Because life has thrown some shit at us.
you're right. And I think that this episode's gonna be so heavy that I'm gonna have to use my vape a little bit. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I vape. Yes, don't start. Like, I already know it's bad for me, but when you smoke cigarettes for years and years and
yeah,
you don't smoke cigarettes anymore and now you're vaping, like it's a step.
yeah. Lay off me. w- it's not that bad. It can't be that bad. Not as bad as the pills that everyone's shoving down their throat every day. There are people who are on. Well, we're
Yeah.
gonna get into that later. There are people who are prescribed 4, 5, 6 different medications at a time, and that stuff was made in a lab. This stuff was made in a lab. Get off me. At least I'm not smoking cigarettes and giving them more money.
Right. And I mean, come on. I smell like freaking raspberry watermelon now. I don't smell like
Everyone's gonna get cancer
Camel
anyways.
Blues or
Oh
Camel
man,
Crushes.
that smell.
Oh
We won't get into
man. All right.
that.
We can't start smoking cigarettes again,
uh,
so we're not
yeah,
gonna
no,
even go
that's
there,
why
but
not. Mm,
if you've ever smoked cigarettes, you know.
you
I mean,
know.
if you were like in the addiction
Yeah,
deep,
yeah.
1 to 2 packs a day, the smell is always glorious. It will never be stinky or like I mean, I walk through cigarette smoke on purpose
Oh yeah, absolutely.
so I
Uh-huh.
can just smell it.
Yeah, like since it's 2023 and I work in the restaurant industry, like 10 years ago, everybody smoked cigarettes, and you go outside and there's 4 or 5 people smoking a cigarette out back all the time. Now everybody's vaping, and only the dish and prep people smoke. Only the people who are old enough to remember when it was called Marlboro and Camel Lights instead of blue and
Yeah.
freaking gold or whatever. Those people still smoke, and so you have to wait for them to go out to get a whiff and then go back inside because times
Man,
have changed so much. It's these that everybody's doing because they don't want to smell like it.
I'm gonna tell you, there's nothing like waking up in the morning, you know, getting kids shuffled away or whatever, and like coming home, having a cup of coffee
Mm,
and a cigarette on the porch.
man.
There's nothing like that. I don't
I think
care
when I
what you
turn
think.
80, all bets are off. When I turn 80, I'm going to start doing everything that I think is bad for me now. I'm going to go back to smoking cigarettes. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm probably going to start shoplifting everywhere I go just because, and then I'll just pretend like I don't know where I am. It's going to be awesome.
Phil will love that. Well, oh, sorry, Phil, you won't be around.
I almost knocked the laptop off. You can't get me out of it then.
Uncle Phil. Um,
I think we'll edit out his last name probably just in case.
well, I mean,
Oh man.
it is what it is.
Oh man. Do you want to tell the people about us and how this all started? Or should we
So
just keep
I think we need to
riff-raffing?
start with how we met. So, in for years as a young preteen, I went to a church out in the country in Ralph called Shiloh, and I attended with several girls who I consider good friends of mine. One of them went to school with you. Actually, they
Shout
all went
out.
to school with you, but
Did they?
one of them was good friends with you.
Oh, they did all go to the same school,
Hmm.
the same church. That's weird. I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in the same class.
Um, so she said, "Hey, I know this guy, and he's like the girl version of you,
The what?
the guy version of you."
You're the girl version of me.
Yeah, and I'm the girl version of you, and you guys have got to meet. And thanks for that, H. Greg, because that was life
Shout out.
changing. Um,
Literally.
so we s set up a Barn Books a Million
It
date.
took years for that to happen, though. It took a couple years.
Yeah,
I think I was just coming into high school when it was and that information was given to me that you existed. But
yeah,
I didn't meet you for another couple years.
that's true. Because I used to read the notes that you guys would like exchange
Oh,
amongst your class, and your handwriting hasn't changed in all
oh
these years.
God.
But anyway, since you were 11, it's been the same.
That's awful.
But it's
The
legible.
fact that I have to think about you and her sitting together in whoever's house and just going through all those notes because who knows what I wrote because I was what 13, 14, 15, 16 years old when I was the dumb. Oh my God. Oh
It
no.
was it was awesome.
Moving on from that to the time that we did meet um was literally life changing because people talk about sparks. People talk about just knowing right then and there, and and it it's always brushed off. I always have thought that you it's just impossible for that kind of thing to happen, especially to me, to somebody like me. How could that happen? But as soon as I saw you the first time, it was incredible. It was life changing. Yeah.
I can still remember not what I was wearing at Books a Million when I met you for the first time, but when we set up our own like first date outside of our friend
By
that was
ourselves.
mutual at Barnes and Noble, I still remember the outfit that I wore. And I kept that shirt for years because of that.
Did you ever wear it for anybody else? Don't answer that. What was I wearing that first time?
All I can remember is
Probably a
that you had a
hoodie.
beanie on.
Probably a hoodie, a beanie, and shorts.
Yeah. Um,
Huh. Predictable.
and it was like kind of like a double date. You had a friend and I had a
Hmm.
friend join us, and we just walked around and talked, and I just felt very comfortable with you, very at ease, very much like, when you meet someone for the first time, you feel all this pressure with it being like a date, but I felt like it was more like a hangout, and because of that, I didn't feel like I had to be any type of way. I could just be me,
Yeah.
and I felt an immediate the first thing that attracted me to you was just this immediate calm that came over me in your presence.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I've never felt like, I mean, I've felt butterflies in anticipation of seeing you, but you've never made me feel nervous for who I am or what I have to say.
Okay. I can feel you on that. I got
Um,
butterflies for a long time. I still get them sometimes.
I still get butterflies, but in like an excited, anticipatory
Yeah.
way, not like, oh, what if he thinks I'm weird? What if he thinks
No,
I'm
yeah. Oh, well, I felt that for sure because I'm a fucking
really?
weirdo. Yeah. So I was like, oh no,
I
she's gonna see through
loved
that.
it.
But then I saw how yourself you were and how I could sense how calm you were and I thought that's just who you were, but that's just who you were around me. I just brought all that out of you, and there was just an immediate connection, and we
Yeah,
couldn't be separated.
yeah.
Couldn't be separated for months.
I think that we had that little date, and I remember texting you after and being like, "Whoa, I like you a lot."
I remember that.
And you're like, "Yeah, I like you too." Because I mean, I think y'all had literally gotten from like Midtown Village. If you're a Tuscaloosian, Midtown Village is right across the street from the big mall, indoor mall. So you had just gotten to the University Mall or something, and I was already texting you like, "I like you a lot."
I was trying to play it cool, but
Yeah.
I was like, jumping up and down. Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely remember that.
We were so young. I was, what, a
Yeah.
junior in high school?
Yeah. It was the summer.
The summer before my senior
Yep.
year.
Yep.
So that was 2008. So summer of '08. So after that moment, we got back together and we started dating.
Mhm.
Like exclusively each other. We saw each other almost every
On
day.
your birthday, I think,
Yeah.
or at least at your birthday event
Yeah.
party thing,
We went and saw
outside of your
Love
friend's
Guru.
house.
And I remember the dress I wore on that date. Um, but we went on that date and it was pretty much like shortly after then you were like, "So, you're my girlfriend now, I think."
Yeah, definitely sitting on the ground beside my car on the street outside of your friend Jesse's house.
Mhm. And
Yeah,
then
I've never been that confident or that forward with anyone to just be like, yeah, I think you're my girlfriend now, and like feel confident that you'd be like, okay,
yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I think I am." And we were
heck
like, "All
yeah, bro.
right." And then of course our first kiss that we shared outside of Shelton State Community College.
Well, that came before.
Yeah, that was
That came
before.
before this.
Same summer, but shortly before we like made ourselves
Probably
official.
like a week, right?
Yeah,
Probably like a week before.
like a
That
few
was a day
days.
date. That was a day date because I remember showing your Facebook pictures to all my friends and being like, "Can you believe that I'm going to meet up with this girl to hang out for lunch? Like, can you believe she wants to come hang out with me?" And they're like, "Shut up, prove it, weirdo."
And that's so funny to me because I was always sort of embarrassed by the, not embarrassed, but the senior pictures that I had done, my cousin did, and they were beautiful, and I loved that they were so different, but they were almost, looking back on them, they were a little sexual.
Yeah,
Like,
I,
like they're a little risque a little bit.
I think I noticed when I was 19.
Look at it blush. But I felt like looking at my other friends, everybody was like, "Oh, I love your senior pictures." And at the time I was like, "Yeah, they're so different and they're out in nature." And
Well, you say that, but like there was nothing really sexual about them. There wasn't even any cleavage in those pictures. You were like floating in a river in a couple of them, but like I still have physical copies of some of them in the
well, some of
house.
the pictures I did have cleavage in because I didn't have no choice.
Oh.
Sometimes cleavage just happens naturally, but that wasn't my intention.
No. No, they
Um,
were great. But that was a great time. And we had a really great summer that summer. Um, but we were how I was 19, I believe. And you
yeah,
that birthday that we're talking about, you were turning 17.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had just turned 17 and you were 19 and going on
An
20.
idiot. Yeah. I'm still an
Well,
idiot.
and you were in high school, or I'm sorry, I was in high school.
I wasn't 19 in high school, I promise. I said I was an idiot, but I'm smarter than that, I promise.
He
I
went to
graduated
open
with
door.
some honors. I took advanced classes.
You're so smart.
That's the most convincing thing you've ever said.
So funny to me is because you're so smart and I'm making you out to be like a dummy.
And
But
you always say that my school was a school for rejects.
it's like everybody that
You
gets
said that everyone that went to your church went to my school.
look, y'all know TC High '09. All the folks that got kicked out of County High
Well,
went to Open
well,
Door or
that's
ACA.
partly because if you get kicked out of a school around here, you have to go to a private school, and there's not many. All the private schools are all Christian schools. They like either you can go to public school or we make you learn the Bible. One of the
Yeah,
two.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Because it
Which
was
means that we
like
had some pretty good sports teams after a while. And they kept getting kicked out of the public schools, coming to play basketball for us.
Open Door, Tuscaloosa Christian, or ACA. Like
Hmm.
anybody that got into like
Holt.
bad trouble or like got caught with weed or something at
Yeah.
school, like they went
I
there.
think yeah, someone went to Holt too. I
I ain't
guess
gonna
I
call
don't know.
nobody out, but
Oh
y'all
no,
know who
yeah.
you are. Because I remember you going to my school for about six
And if
months.
you went to my school, you remember them because you remember when they'd come to your class and you'd be like, "Oh no."
Whoa, he's got tattoos and he's 15. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not hating on y'all. Look,
Okay, my thing.
everybody's
I'm
had a
sorry.
different
All
everybody's
right.
had a different freaking,
Yeah, it's okay.
experience. I'm sure that had I not been like raised in church, it would have been a different high school experience for me.
Oh man.
But that was the problem, is the summer that we met each other, I was heavily involved in my church, and it influenced me. Um, I'm trying to put this in a way that's positive and not
Well,
derogatory.
that's really all you have to say is
Okay.
that you were heavily influenced in church, and at the time, I was extremely anti anything that. So you were coming home with your hair smelling like cigarettes, staying out late watching me play music, being in a band, being whatever my version of a bad boy I guess was that was trying to get you away from that. It's looking back, it's so different than that. But I could see how everyone around you at the time was like, "What are you doing, Hannah? You're going into your last year of high school. You're making good grades. You're going to go off to college. Why are you going to do this with this scuzzball? This nothing. Who just not doing he's not going to school, he's just working and playing music and not doing anything, and you're like, can I please go to Aniston and watch him play, and so
Yeah.
like of course they were like, you gotta break this off.
Yeah. And I mean, at the time, like looking back, there's some frustration there with where I was at mentally and what had sort of been going on in my life. That led us into that point. But regardless, I went on a mission trip to Mexico as your girlfriend, and on the way back, I broke up with you via text message.
Woof.
It was awful.
Rough.
I'll never forgive myself for doing that, and the people that encouraged me to do that. That was terrible. And if I would never do that to someone looking back, because you can't break up with someone via text message. You just
Mm.
can't.
Well, it got worse because I was like, I'll still come pick you up and drive you. It was one humiliating, so painful because I pulled in that parking lot like full well knowing that everybody in that lot and on that van knew what had happened and that they were like over your shoulder while we were texting. And so I was like, I can still save it. I can still fix this. I've got 10 minutes from the ride home from the church parking lot to your house to convince you that this is a terrible idea and that you can't leave me because this is so real. This is so true. There's no way that this could end now because your church says so. They all lie to us all the time, anyways. Why would this be any different?
And even I should have known that even in that moment, the night that you picked me up from the church, we were officially broken up. I gave you that sombrero that you still have to this
It's in
day.
our bedroom right now.
You should put it on.
Next episode, we're going to start with me wearing that sombrero. Don't let me forget.
But I got you the sombrero, and when I walked inside my house, my mom has always been very brutally honest with me, and she was like, "What are you doing? Why would you break up with him? He was so good to you, and you were so crazy about him. What are you thinking?" And
Shout
unfortunately,
out, Molly. You always had my back. You knew you were a real one. You knew it was real.
Molly has always had your back. Even though I got in the most trouble of my life while I was dating you, my parents were still for you.
Which is both of them actually. I feel like Craig took longer to come around to, but he did because I think the night where you got pulled over because your headlights were off when you left my band practice because we were just in such a whirlwind romance. We were on another planet. You didn't even think to turn your headlights on, leaving me, right? And
Yeah,
you got pulled over and you missed curfew, and so he lost his mind.
he knew what
Oh,
we had been doing.
oh, yeah, making out in the front seat of that Impala. How the seats go all the way back, man?
But make it known, we did not have sex
No,
while we dated.
not at all.
It was
Not once.
all
No,
very innocent. We
I was
never had
respectful.
sex. We had plenty of opportunities to, but we never did.
Plenty. Count them. I was respectful.
And Molly and Craig, the night that y'all let me go to Aniston, we were totally kosher. Nothing happened. I was always a
That's true.
very good kid.
And there's witnesses to that because we weren't alone. We were around like 20 people. Some crazy people. But we were alone. Or we
Oh, that
weren't
was so
alone.
fun.
That was a fun
So,
trip. Jessie went with us, didn't she?
yeah.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Hey, Jesse.
Shout out. Man, should we not name drop people? I don't know if they're gonna be okay
Just
with
first
that or not.
names.
First names.
Hey, I'm sorry. If y'all don't want me saying your names, we won't anymore. But
I'm gonna text you
first names
before this
only.
airs, and you'll know. I'll just edit it
Yeah,
out.
we'll text you. We'll
Yeah, because I'm
text you.
getting good at this here audition.
All right, then, people. So, okay,
Okay,
we're rambling. So,
man, we're already. How far are we in? We're already 30 minutes in.
okay, well that's cool because we really just wanted to highlight that we had a whole thing and a knowledge of each other before we got back together.
Yes, while we were younger and dumber than we were when we got married, even younger and dumber. We split, separated, went our separate ways because you had a whole another year of high school. I was still figuring out who I am. We still spent a lot of time doing that.
Yeah,
And we went our separate ways. A lot of things happened. We both moved
right.
away from our hometown at different times. But let's note that from that time was probably what?
Oh wait.
Yeah, the summer of '08. It's probably July, August, right before school started for you until the same June, July of 2011. We had semi-regular contact with each other every few months.
Mhm.
Every if not every 3 or 4 months, every 6 months.
Couple times a year.
Yeah, you would call me, or I would call you, or you would comment something on my Facebook, so I would message you, or I still had your number. I've had the same number since I was 14, so you would text me and it'd still come through. Even if we were romantically involved with someone else, like we never crossed any line, but I always entertained your text or your calls. I never rejected your call, no matter if I was with somebody or not. Not that I ever told you I would never take that call, but I just never could bring myself to hit the red button and not hear you and not see what was going on in your life and see if maybe you're single, because if you were, hit kick rocks, hit the bricks, whoever I'm with, because Hannah Wendell's free, and I got somebody to talk to. I got somebody who can make me laugh more than anybody I've ever met. Let me go talk to her.
That's so sweet. And I've always felt this electric chemistry to you too, like magnetized to you because I broke up with you the summer of '08 for someone else, another guy that I'd met in Mexico. He went to Auburn University. We dated very seriously, and I moved to Auburn, and that was the best decision I made of my life. Not moving for him, but moving out of Tuscaloosa. Young people, if you are about to graduate high school, do not stay here. You need to go out. You need to get out of this town as far away as possible. Not to hate on Tuscaloosa because I love
That
our
goes for
town.
anybody who lives in a smaller town. Even if you're, maybe people who live in a suburb of a large metropolitan city, it's not the same. But if you live in a smaller southern town and you've grown up around close to the same people who have the same ideas as each other for your whole life, move away for at least a year. Meet people who have different ideas, who have different experiences, who come from different backgrounds to see what the rest of the world's really, really like, and then make your decision on how you feel about the world. For
Absolutely.
sure.
I grew up in a very sheltered, overprotected home, which is fine because I think that it gave me a really firm grasp of morals and values from the time I was young. It taught me to appreciate a dollar. It taught me to
Absolutely.
work hard and not to ever expect anything for free. There's a lot of great values that I learned from that season of my life, but when I left Tuscaloosa, I left the, not the grasp of my parents, but the grasp of my parents. I love y'all, but y'all were so like so much. Um when I left that and I could just think and do freely for myself, and not have a curfew and just I was able to be me. I was able to start discovering who I was for the first time in my life
Yeah.
because I had identified so closely with church, with religion, with appearances and the way that things look to other people that I don't feel like I had a lot of opportunity to express myself.
And what you were struggling with internally your whole life. Everything that you had going on that you didn't know how to handle or who to talk to about it. You had nobody. So you're dealing
Right.
with all that, plus coming up with that and figuring out what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I mentioned it on the last episode and we'll dive into this probably in another episode because I really want to keep this about the story of us, but I had struggled a lot with mental health issues, with um in my early high school years anorexia, um some really hard experiences that I was so trapped in through graduation and through being so involved with this guy that was looking back, he wasn't that interested in me, but I was just ready to throw it all away to get
Mm,
out of town and just discover who is Hannah? What do
yeah,
I want? What do I believe? What do I feel in my heart? And when I moved away, it, I mean, it was like my eyes were opened
yeah,
to things that I had never even considered. I was an art major. Going and sitting in that first art history class and to hear the professor talk about how sorry, I'm not emotional. That was just a frog in my throat. Um, but to hear her be like, first of all, this God, this Jesus that you all worship is not real. He's a figment of your imagination.
whoa.
Okay, Hannah Wendell at the time from Ralph, Alabama, like about hit the floor. I was like, where's the lightning? This lady gonna die today. Today's the day, and not to say that she was correct in her viewpoint, but it was a
You never
new
heard somebody
world.
that open about that, and that opposite of what you had been taught your whole life.
And that was my whole experience in
Yeah,
Auburn, is just delving into things that I had never been exposed to. And that included people of different religions,
hmm,
of different race. That included alcohol and drugs, even.
yeah,
Um, these were all things that were so taboo to me that when I was introduced to a group of people that were involved with them, it was like, oh my God, like I literally have lived in a Ziploc bag my
yeah,
whole life.
yeah. And you've been told your whole life that people who live like that are bad people. They're inherently bad people. They have nothing good to offer and no redeeming qualities. And you meet them, and not all of it, but you're like, oh man, you're a good person, and like
Right.
you helped me do this, and like I feel good when I'm around you. You have good ideas. You have good perspectives. You just don't
Absolutely.
believe the same way that everyone around me believed when I was coming up.
Absolutely. I actually, in my jobs working there, and I know that you will sort of express this and when you're talking about when you moved to Nashville, but in Auburn, I befriended a group of people at my job who were atheists. And it was the first time in my life that I had been exposed to atheism or any other religion without there being any negative connotation. It was just, this is me, this is who I am. I'm super cool and I'm super kind and I love you, but I don't believe in God. And I was like, that and that's okay. Like
Yeah,
that's okay. And that I think was the moment that really opened my eyes and opened my life up to all these opportunities.
yeah,
Just being able to accept other people for as they come and not expecting them to be the way that I had taught they were supposed to be.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for me, you mentioned me having those experiences in Nashville, but I wouldn't have had those experiences in Nashville if I hadn't had them here first. Because for me, you mentioned that you moved away to Auburn for school, and that's when you met all these people who had these different ideals. You had to get away from your family to make that happen. But I I did that in the same town and just kind of like pushed my family to the side for a little bit. I was so desperate for something, for anything, for some group to accept me. That when I started meeting people who liked the same music that I did, that played music with me, who like thought that was cool enough to come hang out with them and play music with them. I met all these people in this town that I didn't know existed, who had all those I who who like completely against everything that I had grown up with, and not that they shit talked it all the time, but did, they just had arguments that were opposite of what I had heard, and so it challenged me and it made me think. And if that hadn't happened, I would have never been grown enough, I feel, to leave town and
Right?
to go have even more experiences, whether good or bad, whether I even learned anything or not, whether they were good or bad. I had to do that here first, which I feel was at the detriment of my family. I feel like they had to suffer a lot because I kind of did push them away and I just kind of did my own thing. Like immediately after high school, I was like, "Peace. I'm here. I'm in the same town, but I just can't be around you right now. I've got to go do this thing. I've got to go
Yeah.
be around this other group and this other mindset for a while to just see what this is like and
Hmm.
hear other opinions other than what has been thrown at me for the past 18, 19 years." And that's when I
Absolutely.
met you.
Yeah. And I feel like it took us finding ourselves and sort of having that time off on our own, figuring out sort of a little bit more about who we were, because that's the challenge that Southern Baptist kids face, right? Is like, and a lot of them, it's unfortunate, but they never get to discover who they truly are because they stay immersed in it their whole life. And that's fine. For some people, that is totally fine. But for me and my creative spirit, I needed to get out and I needed to see
Yeah,
more parts of the world, more pieces of a wider variety of people because I
yeah,
wasn't finding my place with the people that I knew and loved here
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah.
I mean, don't you kind of feel the same way?
Uh,
Well,
hundred
except
percent.
you've had your group here, but I never did. I had to move away to
Yeah,
find my group.
yeah. Because well, the people that you met when you dated me were probably some of the first people you met who were like that because they were coming around while we were playing music and they were doing things and saying things that were probably opposite what you had ever been hearing. You know.
Right. And you're referencing the people that your friends and
Right.
friends of your band that would come
The
hang
people that
out.
I introduced you to that summer when we dated the
Right.
first time, yeah, and that might have sparked something in you, and that probably pushed you farther towards the people in your church and that guy you were talking about who you left me for then because he was very involved in that and he represented this safe place and this comfort of we've got you here. Just do what
Right.
we say, act this way, and we've got you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess it was like when I was hanging out with you and your friends, even in 2008 and forever, like our whole relationship, I feel alive. I
Hmm.
feel the most myself and I feel the most proud of like where I stand and who I am and what I have to say. Sometimes I feel when I'm put with people that maybe are a little more closed-minded about certain topics, it's hard for me to feel like I can be myself
Yeah, definitely.
because I feel like I have to put on sort of a front that conveniences them, and that's fine.
And then you do that, and then they say something so incredibly off color that it knocks you off your feet, and you're in the middle of wide eyed like this, like, I can't believe that they just said that shit to me. Oh my God. I could ruin your life.
Or look, side note, I don't know if this happens for people nationwide or if this is just something we experience in the South, but the
I'm
things
anxious
that
to know.
people have said to me in the most genuine way with the most ignorance has has taken me to a place of just
Oh, yeah.
what are we what are they even
Like shit
doing
you
here?
see in movies where you're like, they surely there's not a character that bad. They wrote him too evil. Nobody would say that. And you're like, oh, vermin? What?
Sometimes okay, okay. First of all, the Foster's Facebook. Let's just touch on the Foster's Facebook group.
It's
Foster's Ralph
gold.
Gina
It's just
community.
as gold as Love Is Blind. It's so much entertainment, dude. If just drive past somebody's house with a too loud of a truck, and you're gonna start some problems, man. It's on.
It is real. We live in a rural community, very small. There has been an ongoing dispute about a Goodwill drop-off center that they have at our local grocery store.
It has been misused. It has been mistreated, and it looks bad.
It did look bad, but
But
you can't call people vermin. You can't call people two-legged vermin that
just
see
can't.
a perfectly good piece of furniture stand sitting beside it and go and pick it up. You just can't
I
because if it doesn't fit in the box, it's fair game.
boom. And if it looks like it might be usable, if they need it, let them go get it. That's what it's for. It's for goodwill. If
That's
somebody needs it, let them get it. You think I haven't driven by and seen, man, that looks like it might be usable. Let me. I don't need to go to Food Land, but let me drive through and see if something looks good over here. I've done that before. If and am I vermin? Call me vermin to my face.
Karen, Karen, who is calling people vermin on the Foster's Facebook page. I don't know what your real name is, but
It
you're
was
a
a lady. I thought it
Karen.
was a guy.
It's a lady and a
I don't know.
man. They're
Oh,
both in their 60s, and y'all
hmm.
need to check
Okay. Well,
yourself.
maybe we'll cut this part out. It's getting a little hot.
No, but don't call people vermin. And
You can't
I
do that.
furnished my college apartment with dumpster
Oh,
trash. So,
everyone did. If you live in a college town, especially, if you actually, I'm gonna go as far as to say this: you're an idiot if you don't go drive around the campus at the end of every semester and see what they're throwing out. They don't pay for nothing, and they just throw it on the
no.
end. We furnished every single apartment. We had stuff we didn't need all over the apartment. Just surfboard decorations, a donkey hanging off of here. They throw out everything they don't need at the end of every semester.
Got a quality futon in Auburn. It was not dirty.
Quality.
It was not lumpy or like raggedy. It was a
Did
nice
you ever hit it with a
futon.
black light though? You say it wasn't dirty. Did you ever blacklight it? Now that
I
you're looking
didn't.
back,
Looking back, I probably wouldn't
hmm.
have taken that in because bed bugs are a
Now,
thing.
oh Lord, have mercy. Yeah, yeah. The Hannah I know now would never take a futon off the side of the road. I wasn't thinking bedding.
But, anyways, don't call people two-legged vermin, and you
Don't do
can't.
it. Be nice. That's the whole point of this. What we're doing. Be nice. We're choosing joy. Choose love. These two episodes are probably gonna be the hardest because we're telling you some awful dark stuff. But the whole rest of this podcast is us choosing joy, choosing love, choosing positivity. Like some bad shit's probably gonna happen, but we gotta look for the good. If you can't find any good, some good's gonna come next. We're just gonna keep going. No, they're not. Nobody's vermin. They're people. They're living, breathing people who probably have people that they care about, and they're trying to find something to help them out. So back off.
Right.
Man, where
Anyways,
were we in the story?
so I moved to Auburn, Corey moved to
Mm.
Nashville, and eventually those things didn't pan out. I was in a toxic relationship in Auburn at the time, not with the guy I moved there for. Some other guy, he was terrible to me. Anyway, that ended and I was afraid for my life. And so I had to get back home out of Auburn, and you were leaving Nashville.
Hmm. Yeah, I was coming back actually to go to school to try to go to college. I don't know how serious I was about it. That was my reasoning for coming back, but I was pretty lonely. And I missed home. It was
Hmm.
pretty bad. I was poor. I was broke. I was hungry. It did not go as well as I thought it would, looking back, and that's hard for me to admit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough to say. I met some cool people and I had fun, but like that just wasn't for me. Shout out to my sister who let me stay with her for the first month I was there until I found a place. So I found people on Craigslist to let me live with them. It's a wonder I didn't get murdered. It was wild. I was just like, who wants to let me live with them? I'll come meet you. And they were like, you want to come stay here? Move your stuff in. Whew.
Are you a felon? They probably didn't even bother asking that.
No, nope, nope, nope.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, felonies can be so trivial, but I'm not a felon, by the way. That's not.
I'd like to know what your felony is, though. I'd like to know what
It'll
is it.
be.
Are you a violent offender?
I
Is it a
mean,
white
you
collar
tell
crime?
them what my felony will be.
Did you yours?
What will my felony be if I ever get one?
Assault on a police officer, verbal or physical. And there's nothing I can do to get you. I can't help you. I can't save you. I'm gonna have to stand back because if I step in to try to help you, I'm gonna get shot. Then our kids are gonna be dadless. I have to let you get arrested. Just please don't fight them back. Just let them take you to jail because they're gonna take you down.
No
You get so
comment.
mad.
I love a few police officers, but most of them can kiss my ass. So that's all about that. Anyway,
I
so
had to take a hit for now.
we
Oh.
um we moved back home around the same time. It was about a month apart, totally unknowingly. Um
It's wild how it
we
works. And
I
it was
moved
around the
back
same time of the year. That around the same time of the year
right.
that we it's just everything just works out. It's so crazy.
And I was having a really rough time. I moved back into my family home with my parents, and it was really, really, really bad because I was used to living as a single adult woman, and they were used to me living as a 17-year-old minor.
Mm.
And there were a lot of clashing opinions, and I was desperate to find a way
A lot
out.
of new smells.
I was ready to get the hell out of home again.
Mm.
I was like, I can't do this. Like me and my mom are gonna maybe fist fight. Like I can't live here anymore because this is a terrible place to be in. And so
So what'd you do?
I had to just stick it out, but I texted
You
you.
texted me.
I texted you. And I think that we should briefly talk about that, but skip straight into we got married because I texted you in
Really?
July. I texted you in July of 2011.
Okay.
We were married when?
February of 2012.
It was quick, very quick. But I do think we need to stop here.
I know that that's 9 months, and I know, so y'all probably saw me count on my fingers because I'm not good at math. But it's not because we got pregnant. That's not why we got married. I know it happens
No,
to be 9 months after the fact.
we were married when we got pregnant the first
You want to
time.
stop here?
Well, I think it would be a good idea just because
I have
I
so
need a
many.
bathroom break.
I have so many great things to say about you, though.
Aw. Well, let's just pause.
Okay.
And guys, catch us next week for episode 3 because we're going to then dive into getting married after just a few months.
Yeah.
And
Maybe we spent a little too much time on Love is Blind at the beginning. So episode 3 and 4 might still be carrying on to our story because we really just want to let you know who we are. We want you to feel like you can connect with us and that you know us because we just want to talk to you
absolutely.
not that we think we have anything better to say than anybody else. We just feel like we want to start spreading goodness. And the only way we know to do that is to talk. And we don't know enough people to spread that. So this is the best platform for us to get that voice out there. And
Absolutely.
so thank you so much for listening. Again, look out for episode 2. Check out our socials. You can visit our website at stospod.com, stospod.com. All of our socials are what?
Ship to Shore podcast.
Boom. And appreciate all the artwork on it. Give it a like, subscribe, follow us because she did all of the graphic art on that, all of the text, everything she put together for the socials and the website, all the art you see behind us, everything that is here set up here, she did. So appreciate that. Love her. Tell her how great she is.
Quit. We love you guys. We will see you next week, episode 3.
Shout out.
Hey!
Oh no.
Mm.
I just
Like
swapped
that.
hands on that one.